Hello, good morning, and welcome to Compass Coffee Talk. And come on in. Thank you all for joining us for this live podcast. We're now well into our third season. Bill Capsalis, my co-host, and I, we've switched to a quarterly format. We're pleased with that as we come back into doing a lot of business out there. We both just come back from the Natural Products Expo West this past month. Pleased to chat about that a little bit with our special guest, Jennifer Maxwell, who is the co-founder of the original Power Bar with her late husband, Brian. And there's a whole story right there. But on top of that, I will disclose that I have the pleasure through our agency, Compass Natural, of working with Jennifer in her new company, JamBar, which is a certified organic energy bar. Whole food based, all the best possible ingredients possible. So we're very, very proud to work with Jennifer and the JamBar team and represent such a great product that also gives 50% of its profits back to community, education, music, and outdoor activities. So JamBar really is a bar of the people, and really supports a lot of great stuff out there. And we also just helped Jennifer exhibit for the first time with the JamBar brand at Natural Products Expo West, which was a banger of a show. So we'll be really pleased to talk about that. Again, I want to welcome everybody to Compass Coffee Talk. I believe this is our 32nd or 33rd episode. Forgive me, I'm kind of losing count, which is a good thing, I think. And then in July, we're featuring Ibrahim Bashir, and he is the founder of A Dozen Cousins and also the Potluck Project, which is promoting a lot of entrepreneurship among a diversity audience. So we're really excited about our next episode. But for today, we want to introduce Jennifer Maxwell. And before I get too into it, I would really like Jennifer to share her story. But suffice it to say, we both kind of started in the natural products industry about the same time, about mid-'80s. I came to work for a company called New Hope Network as the editor of the Natural Foods Merchandiser and helped produce all the education at Natural Products Expo East and West, while Jennifer was creating Power Bar and building an entire category out of scratch. Before that, there was no energy bar category. Jennifer, you inventing the Power Bar actually created that entire category, which is really just amazing. Before I have Bill take over with some questions, I also want to thank our sponsors, Presence Marketing, one of the largest independent natural product brokers in the country, Naturally Boulder, Naturally New York, and Naturally San Diego. The Naturally Network is a great organization, so check it out. Thank you again for joining us. Bill, I'm going to turn it to you to open it up. And thank you again, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Yeah, and welcome, Jennifer. And welcome everyone who's dialed in. 32, 33 episodes. We're here, Steve.
That's
whatever.
Right.
It doesn't matter. But we were talking earlier before the call started, we've had the pleasure to meet and talk with some amazing people. And Jennifer's story is only new to me in that my friend Steve here gets to work with Jennifer, and he shared her story with me. So Jennifer, we're not going to talk forever about the old days, but we're going to talk a little bit about the old days. Just give us a little snapshot of what it was like back then and what you were thinking about and trying to do. And then we're going to really move forward, fast forward to the present day and get questions about what's happening in the industry today. But what was it like back there in the mid-'80s and Power Bar early days?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me this morning, Steve and Bill. It's great to be here with you and your audience. So yeah, we could spend the entire show talking about the old days with Power Bar. It was a very exciting time. I was still a student, nutrition and food science student, athlete at University of California, Berkeley. Brian was doing physical therapy, doing some writing. He was a coach, had been a coach at UC Berkeley. Brian is an Olympic marathon runner. So the two of us joined efforts to create an energy bar. There was no such thing as an energy bar back in the day. Remember the 80s, you didn't have computers, right? No cell phone, no computer. It was a rotary phone and so forth. It was a different day and age, different time. But we developed the Power Bar of the need that Brian had as an Olympic marathon runner. You know, what to eat before training and racing was a concern for a lot of people. But that was our main focus, was an athletic energy bar that would help, you know, really high level athletes perform and get that extra 1% advantage, with the combination of ingredients that were in a Power Bar and the technology that we put into it, with amino acids and low fat and complex and simple carbs and all those things that we can talk about in another podcast. Yeah. But we developed, like you said, an industry. And we started in our little apartment from nothing. And we grew not just a great product and was innovative at the time, but a company that was innovative at the time, where we involved all of our employees with ESOP program, which is employee stock ownership program. So all of our employees owned the company. And we also divvied up the profits that we made amongst all the employees, from the warehouse people to top management. And so we had a very, very egalitarian type of structure. And I think that it was one of the things that led to our success, is that people really believed in what we were doing, felt that they were working for themselves, which essentially they were. And when we sold to Nestle in 2000, everyone was pretty happy.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Some of those folks are still working with you today now.
I have relationships now. You're right. So with Jambar, which is a new chapter, I have at least 2 or 3, 4 employees that work here. And we have a similar structure, of course, but not exactly the same. Now we're doing great things at Jambar. So pretty excited.
Yeah, we're going to hear about that. So Jennifer, just really curious, like you had this product, you knew it was a functional sports energy bar. You understood what it was good for, and your husband. How did you actually get it out there and into stores? I mean, what was it like? Were you working with a broker? Did you go direct? What did you do? Drive around a van and sell them a case of bars?
Yeah, we parked our van in the parking lot now. So that's one of the major changes that I have come to realize, is that the whole model for sales and distribution, and marketing for that matter, is very different from what it was in the 80s. I mean, because we were the innovators, we were the first. Of course, it's going to be easier, right? We're creating the path by which people are following. So, but we started as a mail order business, of course, no Amazon. So we had to get out. First of all, we figured, the bar will sell itself. We go to events and give out a lot of product, of course, and also just put flyers on windshields of cars at races. And there would be like a little coupon you could tear off, and you'd send it in the mail and get your 3 dozen bars for $39. And I was in charge of, I was still a student, remember, but I would come in my breaks and I'd come over to the post office, get the orders in the mail, go back to our apartment and fulfill the orders and put them out on the porch for UPS to come pick them up. Sometimes we'd have a couple of orders that it started growing. All of a sudden we'd have 20, 30, 40 boxes a day going out of our little apartment. But, people would pay with check. Right? There was barely even a credit card type of accepting funds. So it was really just checks. Of course, we'd have bounce checks and all the rest of it. But that's how we started, with the mail order business.
And were you self-manufacturing, or were you co-manufacturing at that point?
We were co-packing. Yeah, right. We co-packed first couple of years. We didn't have any kind of funding that would allow us to have our own plant.
Right. So in the natural course of things, the brand grew, you had more distribution points, you eventually ended up self-manufacturing then?
We did, right. So once we went from being a mail order business, our main market was bike shops. So we went down to the local bike shop, walked in, showed them the product. And what was interesting at that time compared to now is that people were so receptive to it. They were so receptive, like, wow, this is fantastic. So it was rare that we would have an account that didn't want the product. That just was very rare. So we were able to kind of do our own brokering, our own sales, because everyone wanted it. We'd have stores calling us to place an order.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I do have a memory of those boxes on bike shop shelves back then. A little box of Power Bars sitting there. But I think there was maybe 1 flavor, maybe 2. I don't remember exactly.
There was 2. There was chocolate and malt nut. Yeah.
Okay, so that's rolling along, and then, oh my gosh, now we're in the 90s and things are rocking, and you end up selling. And And then, you had some life events occur, unfortunately, but you took a break. You went away for a while, and you went off to do other things, and take care of the family and play music. Tell us a little bit about that period of time from the sale to like when Jambar became a reality.
Right, right. As you say, yes. Brian and I have 6 kids, so being a mom is a huge part of my identity. And of course, growing Power Bar, growing our family went hand in hand. So we were a pretty busy couple. Sold in 2000. Brian unfortunately passed away in 2004 with an existing heart condition. And so my life went through incredible turmoil, turned upside down, and music sort of entered into my life as a salvation and to really a healing force in my life. And I took up the drums. Fast forward, I'm 15 years in, I play in 2 bands, and drums, the music is a huge part of my life.
Yeah. And you're also a very active athlete still.
I've been an athlete my whole life. Yeah. And the other thing that kept me and the family together was sports. Right, Steve? I mean, I've been a competitive runner, and that competitive component went away when Brian passed, because I couldn't handle any more competition. But the running, getting out into nature, getting on the trails was such a healing force for me, and kept me healthy and strong. And, of course, bringing my kids into that, all my kids are athletic as well. But
what's the age range of those kids today? Like, what's the oldest one? What's the youngest one? Just curious.
My oldest is 33, and my youngest is 19. So it's 14-year age range in 6.
And out of the 19-year-olds out of high school, so you're not dealing with that anymore, and you've got.
So it's like, well, it's like, you don't have so many kids anymore, so now I want you to start a business. You don't have a moment to lose. It's crazy person. No, but
well, and today now you're manufacturing. You've actually been able to establish kind of to your own specifications the manufacturing facility.
Right.
Yeah, I have the experience. Yeah, I mean, back in Power Bar, of course, we opened our own plant in Boise, Idaho. So I'm familiar and have connections in the industry of equipment, and I have so many friends and contacts in the natural food industry.
Yeah. So that just really leads us right into, okay, yeah, the kids are starting to move forward in their own lives and develop their own world, and you're sitting there going, I want to do something again. And it's this idea comes back around for a bar, and the bar you created is very different than the original Power Bar. How is it different? Why is it different? And then let's talk a little bit about where you're at today. And I would love to hear your impressions about Expo West too, because I know you returned there this year. That was the booth. And so I'm just really curious, like, what are you seeing in terms of difference? But first, tell us about Jambar, the inception and the journey right now.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah. So Jambar came about as part of a conversation I was having with my daughter around the kitchen table. She says, Mom, why don't you, I know you like energy bars, and there's nothing out there that you want to eat for one reason or the other. And I said, you're right, and I'm a food scientist. Why don't I get back into the game here and spend some of my knowledge and experience creating something that is great? And so it took me about 4 years of putting ingredients together. Of course, now the food industry is different. Right now, there's lots of options that we didn't have back in the 80s, whether it's different grains, forms of those grains, proteins, different ways of holding the product together. It has to go through the equipment. So how are you going to hold it together? Different types of fruits, different types of chocolate. My big thing is I wanted to be organic, and I believe in the movement of preserving our earth and helping people avoid pesticides and really eating the best that we can. And so I wanted everything to be organic. Well, that limits it a little, right? Because you have to have mass quantities available in which to order your organic ingredients. So organic was really important. And then I wanted to use all real food. I didn't want to use manufactured ingredients. I didn't want to use ingredients that I didn't know where it came from, right? That they were somehow changed in a lab or created with ingredient mechanisms that I didn't really want to put in my body. It didn't taste as good. So I wanted ingredients that are close to nature, that you could recognize, that taste great.
Mhm.
So about 4 years, put different things together, and came up with Jam Bar. And I wanted to have one of the most important things I wanted to include in my portfolio of flavors, let's say, is a lot of variety.
Mhm.
And I think that's one thing that also distinguishes this product in the category is we have two that are plant-based proteins using sunflower seed protein, and one uses 4 different berries and the other is mango. But the two bars are very different in their taste compared to the other two, which are chocolate and malt nut. Ironically, the original Power Bar flavors, the malt nut is a combination of vanilla, malt, and tahini and peanut butter, very similar. And the chocolate is a fair trade, pretty deep, rich chocolate flavor. But each Jam Bar is very different from the other, right? Where other products on the market might take a base formulation and just add a little of this, a little of that, and call it a new flavor. I didn't want to do that. So it made my formulation job very challenging.
Interesting.
Really working with an array of very different percentages of all these different ingredients. Yet I need to keep the bar similar enough that it's going to be treated the same in the factory. Yeah.
So each of the bar flavors, and I've tasted all of them, by the way, they all have their own unique formula to them. And when you do manufacturing, you're sort of dealing with a different set of ingredient profiles and process for each bar flavor.
A little bit, not extreme, just a little bit. Maybe the
so it's probably like you're doing a run of one flavor and then resetting everything for the next flavor, the next run.
We do. Yeah, we do. And that's one of the beauties of having our own state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities, that we can call those shots. We can say, okay, it's mango day. We cut our own mango. And this is incredible. It's the second ingredient on the label, right? So we have a lot of mango in
there.
Yeah. So this is where I have to cut in on the musical legacy, the purposeful musical legacy, and then also the kind of fortunate musical legacy, because the facilities that Jam Bar and I had the opportunity to visit in October, and in that big manufacturing space, there is a huge mural painted by one of the artists who did a number of the covers of the Grateful Dead albums. And then in our friend Tanya's office is a mural painted by himself, Jerry Garcia himself. So you have some rich history in that production facility in your offices.
Thank you, Steve. That is right. We were looking for different plants in which to renovate and, put our facility together. I think it was just completely serendipitous that we found this site, which had been a Grateful Dead recording studio, probably in the 80s. There was some remnants of old, cutting rooms and music rooms. And so, we could see some wires hanging down off the ceiling. So, yeah.
I did a little research. I think there were a couple bands that actually recorded in that. So your facilities just have such a very great vibe.
Thank you.
From that history and what you're creating.
Thank you. Yeah, we think so.
It kind of brings up an interesting connection, like thread, I guess, if you will, Jennifer, over the last 40 years of your story and the industry itself and the history of things and how things have evolved and changed. You mentioned you wanted things to be organic. I highly applaud that and appreciate that. And you also mentioned that, of course, you have to have a supply chain now. What are some of the major differences you see right now as you come back into this industry, been at it for a little bit now? Talk to us a little bit about just observations that you might have on the way the network works, the distribution points, the retail stores, the direct-to-consumer models. How is all that how are you getting up to speed on all that, and what are the major changes you're seeing with supply chain and other things, wrapping your bars in a package, anything? Just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Funny enough, you actually started direct to consumer with Power Bar, except it was totally analog. You were doing it with flyers and mail order.
Yeah, we were, so that would be the overarching takeaway. First of all, there's a lot for me to learn, because I have so much experience back in the day, and now I fast forward myself into this new world. But There's a lot to learn. I think there's always a lot to learn. I'm in a learning mode, right? I have a lot of experience and I have my way of doing things, but I have to be able to adapt to a new way of doing things, which is full of technology, right? We came from an era of no technology to an era of everything's technology, right? So that's a pretty steep learning curve. Of course, I don't live in a tunnel or a cave, but I mean, in terms of really getting the most out of your resources, right? You have to be very savvy with your technology. But the caveat to that is we have to be able to keep what makes us human. And that is the challenge that we are having today in terms of really looking at what do we want to accomplish. And with Jambar, we want to accomplish supporting community. We want to accomplish manufacturing great product full of real food ingredients, and we want to accomplish having a type of work environment that people feel they can really make a difference and be part of. And the overall arching concept of that is you have to be able to keep remembering what makes us human, and that is communication. Right? So you have to be able to communicate in an effective way. And sometimes when you get a lot of technology involved, that effective communication goes out the window. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing with sales in distribution, sometimes in marketing, brokering, all that kind of stuff, is there's so many, communication can become very challenging. And so you kind of lose a little bit of the essence of what you want to accomplish in each day or each week or each month. It's that communication that is paramount to keeping the ball moving forward. So
it does feel a little bit like I talked to a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, Jennifer, and they have similar comments about keeping it real, but also the learning curve. It's just such a different industry and it's moving so quickly. Even for Steve and I have been around for a while too. We just kind of like, it seems like it's always changing, always different, always new people, always new things, always new technology, always new products, tons of innovation, especially in this space. Lots of new innovation, lots of bars all the time. You were at Expo, you were working a booth. How did that feel? What was it like? What are your general impressions?
First of all, I had a great time at Expo. I mean,
was it like bars again, or what was it like for you?
Too many bars. I mean, I think you talk about innovation. I love seeing the innovation as a food scientist. That's my ballywick really, is that innovation. I love it. Everyone will have their own take on different types of innovation that they want to focus on. I like to keep it true, real food, close to the earth, just because I'm very in tune as an athlete with my body. So I tend to really kind of lean more towards the real food angle. But the energy at the Expo was amazing. The number of people that are there, the connections that are made, it's just incredibly fabulous. And so that was really fun for me to see that. Remember that I was at Expo, where Steve was there as well in the 80s, early 90s, when we would go and we would write orders. So you would be talking to people, you don't have these cell phone and all this stuff. You take the order right there. And not only that, but you would sell at expos. You'd come home with cash to pay for your travel expenses. We came home with a box of cash. Those days are gone. But
well, you must have had a great experience. For our friends in the East, I think Jambar will be exhibiting at Expo East in September. Is that correct?
We are. Yeah, we're going to be at Expo East because
Now, I also wanted to ask, and we're getting close on time, if we have any of our attendees that want to ask some questions of Jennifer, now's a good time, pop them in the chat room. You support a lot of causes, from Conscious Alliance, which supports feeding Pine Ridge Reservation, working with major musical artists, all the way to what I think is of import to this podcast is your support of entrepreneurship. And I know that we're going to be talking a little bit coming up about Jambar's support of University of California, Berkeley, the Haas School of Business, which I believe is also educating MBAs in sustainability and in business and entrepreneurship. And I think that's just really important, because this is a big part of giving back, is changing business to be focusing on a holistic, more green economy. And Jennifer, please talk a little bit about how Jambar is supporting that kind of entrepreneurship in our world.
Okay, thanks, Steve. As you mentioned, we huge focus of Jambar is philanthropy, give back and support and community. So we do running events, biking events, musical events. You are absolutely right. We do 20 to 25 events a month, but we also have a pretty good relationship with University of California, Berkeley and the Haas School, my alma mater and Brian's alma mater. And we are involved with a sustainability program. So the sustainability program is really a model for looking at the question of sustainability. How do we create businesses that preserve our environment? And what are the choices that we can make that lead to innovation and new ways of tackling any kind of problems that we see as a society in terms of reducing garbage, reducing negative effects on the earth. So this is a new program that the Haas School is embarking on, and we're a big part of it. Jambar is a big part of it. And then in terms of the MBA program, I've run the Brian Maxwell Fellowship for Entrepreneurship since Brian passed away. And so that was 2004. I started the MBA program there in 2006. So it's been pretty long-lasting support of entrepreneurs that all over the world. So we have MBA students coming from all different countries with all different types of businesses. Some of them are in technology, some of them are in medical industry, some of them are in food industry, all kinds of different industries. And they have to get into UC Berkeley first, and then they can apply for the Brian Maxwell Fellowship, which is a 2-year paid fellowship through the Haas School. So really the idea there is that Brian was, a visionary. Brian was an entrepreneur, as well as myself, and I'm preserving his legacy by running this fellowship on entrepreneurship through UC Berkeley.
Yeah, and I might add, influencing a new generation of young people who care. I mean, they wouldn't go to a sustainability program if they weren't worried about the future, right? So
yeah,
you're kind of showing them the way here that this is a good thing to get involved in. This in our evolution, we need a lot of help. I know we only have a couple minutes left, Jennifer, and I just really want to make sure we say anything we need to say more about Jambar at this point. How can people find those bars? Where can they find them? And
yeah, that was my question as well.
Yeah. So we launched in October of 21, so about a year and a half old. We're in, probably 300 different accounts based here in California in the Bay Area. So most of our business is here. We are sold on Amazon. We're sold direct, jambar.com.
Okay.
But we're in local leading national food markets throughout in the Bay Area, in Southern California. We are getting into the mountain region. We also have a pretty good, healthy business in Asheville, North Carolina. So we're moving east. Yeah, and we're in Safeway, Nugget, Molly Stone's, Berkeley Bowl, major accounts like that.
Yeah, and that's Earth Fair in the Southeast.
Earth Fair, we're in the Southeast, all the Earth Fairs.
Awesome.
We're getting out there. Yeah.
And I have a feeling that sort of that distribution path is going to start to widen and speed up. So congratulations on that. And take it slow and do it your way, man, because that sounds like you.
Right. We want to be, I would say, strategic and careful about what we do. But we also want to make Jambars available to really everybody that values, whole food, real, great nutrition. So.
Yeah. Steve, I'll turn it back over to you for some closing comments. I'll just say, Jennifer, for being here and for telling us your story. I know we could have done a whole half hour just on the Power Bar story, but I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about everything, which was great in a half hour. So thank you so much from my heart. And Steve, I'll turn it over to you, and then maybe we give Jennifer some last comments.
Bill, thank you very much. And Jennifer Maxwell, thank you again for joining our program. Really, it's a pleasure, and a half an hour goes very fast. I know entrepreneurs out there and startups, they're just facing the challenges of funding their business. But I think building the philanthropy and the giving back into the DNA of the business, as you are demonstrating, is important in a lot of ways. And I will say, just think about it, maybe enlightened self-interest, because when you do give back and you get involved in your community, your business becomes part of that community. You are seen as a leader. You build relationships outside of the business that could benefit the business. So this giving back, it's that the last line of the very last Beatles recording, which was the love you take is equal to the love you make. So, give back, because it gives back to your business. Build it in, make sure you stay involved. And if it can't be cash, it can be volunteerism. So right. I think you building that into your business is a big takeaway that I'd like to emphasize. And again, it's a great honor to work with the Jambar team. I want to be transparent about that. But the conversation in and of itself, I've always been amazed by your story. And we met last summer just reaching out for an article that I read about you and the work that you were doing in this business comeback. So I think it's exciting. I'm proud to be a part of it, helping you share that message. It's an important message out there about organic food, our environment, healthy communities, healthy people, healthy planet. I want to thank our sponsors again, and then stay tuned. July 19. We will be featuring Ibrahim Bashir, founder of A Dozen Cousins, and also the Potluck Project. Jennifer, if you have any closing comments for anyone, now'd be a good time. Otherwise, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bill. I'll just close with our tagline, which is "Get your jam on."
Beautiful.
Yeah, they are great bars, folks. So if you want to learn more, talk to Jen, talk to me, go to jambar.com. I can tell you all about them. If you want some samples to try, drop me a line. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you so much. And to all our attendees, thank you very much for this episode of Compass Coffee Talk. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.